All right, so there's eventually going to become a point in your life in which you hit a breaking point and you realize that you're the only one in control of your destiny. That moment smacked me in the face when I was 23 years old. I knew that I had a dream to be a self-employed entrepreneur and build a business and build success for myself, but I kept pushing off that dream because I kept trying to listen to my parents. Now, I'm going to tell you the story that led me to my final breaking point that said, fuck it, I'm going all in, and this is what I'm gonna do, or I'm going to die trying. Literally, I was ready to fucking die trying. Now, what you have to understand is that I grew up when ADHD wasn't necessarily in the mainstream. This is back in 2007, 2008, and I was diagnosed with ADHD. And my parents grew up in a generation where they believed everything, right? They didn't question everything like the generation you and I are probably in. If you're, late millennial, early Gen Z, you question everything, right? Because we don't trust the government, we don't trust the media. But my parents grew up in a generation where you did trust the government, you did trust the media. And so when I was diagnosed with ADHD, they were told that I needed to be put on, medication, and they did. What ended up happening was when I was put on this ADHD medication, my soul got ripped from my body, and I was 12 years old. Now everyone loves Adderall, right? You go out to college, people are doing Adderall to get studying done, to get work done, it's productive, etc., etc. However, when you're 12 years old, you don't give a shit about doing well in school. I did not care about my grades. However, my social skills got extremely stunted, and I had a hard time communicating with my friends, and I was really affected by that because my parents saw that when I took this medication, my grades went up, but I saw that when I took this medication, my social skills went down. So it put me in a really weird place where I was really unhappy. I was depressed. The medication made me very emotional negatively. I started going to therapy, and I got to a point where I just didn't care anymore. I remember being about 14, 15 years old, and I would come home crying because I just was so unhappy. And that got me to a point to where I just didn't care about the world. I didn't care about what my future. I didn't care about anything, because to me, in order for me to be successful, go to school, get a job, it required me to go down this path that I was absolutely miserable in school. Most people had a decent time in school. It was okay. I was absolutely miserable in school because I was forced to take this medication that made me not who I actually was. And so I just didn't care. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care about going to college. I didn't care about getting a job. I literally told my mom that I would be a park ranger and live in a van, and as long as I was happy, then I would be okay. And so that was my priority coming out of high school. And so as soon as I turned 18, I stopped taking the medication because my parents, couldn't tell me to take it anymore. I was 18. I started to feel a little bit normal again, but I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do with my life because I decided that I wasn't going to go to college. I didn't enjoy going down that route because I was so miserable on this medication in high school. And that's when I found entrepreneurship. That's when I found, starting a business. That's when I found, fitness, right? All those things kind of found me at the same time. And also Instagram started popping off. And that's when I started seeing, the first fitness influencers really hitting the scene. And I remember being in high school looking at Instagram and being like, this dude is freaking 24, 25 years old, and he's on the beach making money on a Tuesday at 1 p.m. What is he doing? And how do I do that? And that led me into the world of fitness coaching. And so I decided in that moment after graduating high school that I was going to pursue Instagram, I was going to pursue fitness, and I was going to make that my full-time thing. But I didn't have any proof. I wasn't even that in shape. I was in decent shape for an 18-year-old, but I wasn't anything to write home about. And so I really dedicated the next 4 years of my life from 18 to 22 to getting myself in the best shape, learning everything I could about entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, and really applying myself and being successful in business. But again, I didn't have any proof. I had never ran a business before. I launched a few businesses like personal training. I launched a few businesses like video production, a couple clothing launches, kind of just experimenting with what I enjoyed. During that time, I was still being supported by my parents. And the deal was, as long as I was taking classes at community college, my parents would support me financially. And for the first 2 years, I lived at home, and my plan was to just stay at home, essentially buy myself enough time until one of my business adventures took off. But what ended up happening was I put so little attention into my college classes that I ended up with like a 1.5 GPA or something really, really bad. And they literally wrote a letter home to my family that says, Zakk Colburn is not allowed to re-enroll into the school. So I was kind of shit out of luck. I literally got kicked out of my community college because of poor grades. But during the time, my girlfriend was moving down to San Diego, and she said, I'm moving. You're either coming with me or I'm going without without you? And I said, well, I don't have anything here for me. Let me move down to San Diego, see what I can do there. Enrolled into the community college down in San Diego. I was going to buy myself enough time. When people asked me, what my plan was, I was going to tell them that I was going to go down to Mesa College. I was going to graduate with an associate's degree, and I was going to transfer to SDSU. In the back of my mind, though, I knew that was a complete lie, because I knew that the plan was, I'm just going to buy myself enough time until something takes off, until I figure out something. And it wasn't until I turned 23. I spent 2 years in San Diego, mind you. So I'm making a really big jump here. I moved down to San Diego. I spent 2 years bussing tables. I spent 2 years going to college. I spent 2 years trying to build my Instagram. And what ended up happening was I found myself at 23 years old. I had applied to San Diego, and all of my friends were graduating college and getting internships. I was still bussing tables, and I had tried to get 3 different jobs, and I tried to move up to a server, and it never happened after being there for about 2.5 years. I was looking at my 5th year at community college. I got denied from San Diego State, which is a school that I wanted to go to, and I needed to make a decision. You can either do another year, turn 24 years old, still be bussing tables, be in your 5th year at community college, or you could fucking go all in on your dreams. And I remember having this moment where I received a letter from SDSU saying that I was not accepted. I hadn't called my mom yet, and I confided in one of my good friends. His name was Sumner Healy, one of my really, really good friends. And we're sitting in front of the house. I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm running out of time. I can't do another year, be 24, then transfer to SDSU and graduate at 26 years old. Like, I just don't want to do that. He said, why don't you do the online coaching thing? We have some friends in the area that are doing the online coaching thing. I'm like, I'm sure you've built up your Instagram. You have a fitness audience. Why don't you do that? That's a really good idea. Like, why not? I'll just try it. I got nothing else to lose. I've tried so many different businesses. I've seen the online coaching stuff, but I haven't taken on an actual client online before. I've done personal training. So that night I posted a photo that said, I'm taking on 5 clients for online coaching. If you're interested, message me. I had 3 people message me that night. I scheduled those 3 people for calls the next day. And I remember I was driving into my shift at work to bus tables at Breezy's Brew House. And I was on the phone in the parking lot with the very first client. His name was Fernie. I still talk to him to this day. And I told him that I would build him a custom workout plan, I'd build him a custom nutrition plan, and we'd have weekly check-ins to hold him accountable. And it was $150 for 12 weeks. So I was charging $50. And I didn't really care. It was just the first number that came to my head. And I said, I want this client more than I want the money. And he paid me $150 on the spot. And I realized in that moment, on that 10-minute phone call, that I made 3 times as much money than I was going to make over the next 8 hours. In a 15 minutes time span, I made 3 times the amount of money that I was going to make at my 8-hour shift at work. So when I walked in there, I quit. So I put in my 2 weeks, and I wrote down on a piece of paper that if I can just get 30 clients at $100 per month, I would make $3,000. And for me at 24, that's really all I needed, right? At the time, I was living with 5 dudes, didn't have any car payments, didn't have any loans, didn't have any debts, wasn't in a relationship. It was just me. All I needed was $3,000 a month to be able to support myself. And that was the moment that I quit, and I said, fuck it, I'm doing this, and I'm going all in. And I didn't enroll in school, right? Because the semester ended. So I essentially just stopped going to school. That summer, I went all in on building my online fitness business. Now, something that I want you to consider, you're probably looking at getting started. Like, this is probably brand new to you, meaning that you're probably within your first, I don't even know if you have an Instagram post yet. In order for me to do this successfully, I had been building my Instagram for about 5 years. At 18 years old, I really started aggressively building my Instagram. And at 24 is when I actually launched my online business. So I had 5 years of focused energy on my audience. Now, is it going to take you 5 years to launch your business? No, absolutely not. We have a program that streamlines it for anyone who is just getting started to be able to make $10,000 a month within the next 6 months, because I teach you everything that I needed to learn in order for me to do so, and all the mistakes that I made, so that way you don't have to wait 5 years to launch your business. You can launch your business and be successful from day one. But that was the moment that really got me to say, all right, I'm going all in, and I literally don't care. And I remember during that summer, I felt like quitting many times. I was anxious. I had a lot of self-doubt. I called my parents for help and realized that they are not the support system that I need in order for me to get through this journey. And so I really did feel like I was on my own. I had a phone background that said 1 more week, because every single week, I kid you not, I thought about quitting. I could just go get a job. I can go back to busing. I can go back to serving. I can go, do something else. But I would give myself 1 more week, and I would say, I'll just give myself 1 more week. And what happened was I would get another lead, or I'd make another sale, or my client would resign, or I'd get a testimonial, or I'd get some sort of sliver of hope that kept me going. One more week, one more week, one more week. Little win, little win, little win. And eventually I woke up about a year later and I was making 10 grand a month, and I was making more than all of my friends were making graduating college. And I had more freedom too. I was working for myself, and I booked a trip to Australia. And I remember the moment that I felt like, holy shit, I actually made it. I was 24 years old, and I woke up at 11 a.m. after partying all night with a bunch of strangers that I met in a hostel in Australia on Bondi Beach. And I was on this rooftop looking over the Bondi Beach, and I closed the deal for $900 and I got paid $1,000. And I thought, man, I just got paid $1,000 to take a phone, and I'm in Bondi Beach partying with random people. I'm like, I fucking made it. I'm only 24 years old. This is amazing. And at that moment, I knew that I had to teach other people how to do the same thing, and that's what launched PTBI. I got home from that trip, and lockdowns happened the next month, and I pretty much took those 3 months of lockdown and I built the entire PTBI program, and that was 5 years ago, and now we've helped over 2,000 trainers launch their online business, and it's been amazing. So if you guys enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and follow me on Instagram.